My name is Libby, and I am an artist. I dare you to see water through my artist's eyes. Not the 75% on the world map that's mostly salt water, but that tiny fraction of all water that is fresh. We don't usually think about water here in the Midwest. We don't have to. The Mississippi River watershed provides a bountiful supply of water to grow crops, move barges, and it provides drinking water for 50 million people. But we can't continue to take water for granted. Increased demand, climate change, and pollution mean that water is the planet's new oil. And in all of that scarcity, the Midwest is the Saudi Arabia of water. Water has become the focus of my artwork, not to solve those water-related problems, but to think more deeply about what water means for me personally and for the place where I live. Warning, art is about making connections between seemingly dissimilar things. So this art journey will meander like a canoe floating with the current, but it will reach its destination, and you'll understand what I'm doing in this picture. So hold on to the sides while I describe how making art helped me to see water. I started to see water in 1993 when the Mississippi River floods dominated regional and national news. People here in St. Louis listened to the river stage numbers with the level of concern that I imagine people in a war-torn country have for an advancing hostile army. Eventually, the water levels rose, levees broke, and floodwater filled St. Louis area homes. It dumped tons of sand on once fertile farm fields, and it wiped out whole towns in Illinois and a newly constructed shopping mall in Chesterfield. To raise funds for flood relief, a group of artist friends and I created Flood Mud. Thank you. We sold the bottles for as $10 souvenirs. But no surprise here, nobody wanted this mess that had invaded their neighborhoods just weeks before. I confess that before the flood, I had no idea. I didn't think about rivers at all. But after the flood, I started looking at historic and contemporary maps to see how these rivers that I associated with Mark Twain and steamboats could mean so much in our contemporary lives. I looked at historic maps and noticed that the rivers were depicted as these almost monster-like characters with sharp bluffs that contained them. This is a 1797 map of the confluence of the Missouri and the Mississippi River. In contrast, contemporary maps emphasize roads and show rivers as these wimpy little blue lines that deny the river's ability to change course and grow in volume. The map on the right is based on a satellite view of that same Mississippi-Missouri River confluence during the flood of '93. We called this a 500-year flood. So that fooled many of us into thinking that we had generations, if not centuries, before we deal with a major flood again. Boy, were we wrong. Now, are you still holding on to the sides of this art canoe? Because there's a second tributary to my artwork that sprang from a trip to Florence, Italy. There I visited this anatomical museum where wax figures and illustration mixed biology and beauty. I saw this male wax figure with his chest open, displaying his lymphatic vessels like clusters of winding creeks. Anatomy waxes and illustrations are like maps in that they both show something we can't normally see. With maps, we need the cartographer's bird's eye view to visualize our place on the planet. And there are visual similarities too. The pattern of creeks, rivers, streams resembles the branching networks of our arteries, veins, and capillaries. In these drawings, I'm showing the difference, the relationship actually, between our human bodies and the planet on which we live, the Mississippi River specifically. We don't often think about our bodies of water. Human bodies, our adults, are about 60% water. I weigh 110 pounds. A gallon of water weighs about 8 pounds. Do the math. You are looking at 8 gallons of water. A third tributary of my art also sprang from that trip to Florence, Italy. There I visited churches, of course, and I fell in love with the religious reliquaries, those ornate glass and metal structures that contain the decaying matter that was once a saint's bone or blood or tooth. These inspired me to make my own reliquaries from things I found at flea markets and yard sales. This is a leap of faith. The theologian Paul Tillich says that a person's faith is his or her ultimate concern. So my reliquaries were based on the things I was concerned about at the time. You might say even obsessing. After a failed relationship, I created this reliquary for rejection. The relic is a crushed bottle cap that reads, "Sorry, please try again." So it bothered me that I couldn't bring together these three streams of my artwork, the maps of rivers, the illustrations of anatomy, and now the reliquary sculptures. Artists strive to create a cohesive body of work, and my work was all over the place. I wanted the work to come together like the Illinois, Missouri, and Mississippi rivers. Finally, I had a confluence of ideas when I asked myself, what if? What if I inverted the reliquary so instead of containing the sacred object, it became a sculptural marker drawing people's attention to the sacred land and water outside the sculpture? This brought together the three streams of my artwork, but it took a gifted collaborator to make it real. 4 years ago, artist-photographer Joshua Rowan and I began working on watershed cairns, watermarked with art. The reliquaries became cairns that marked water's journey from land to river. Cairns are the stacks of rocks that hikers will build and leave along the trail to show their path. But our cairns were made from glass, mostly clear like water, and removed after we photographed them. We started looking at area maps for the green places to find where geology and beauty mixed. This tributary cairn marks the erosion from too much rainwater coming from roofs and parking lots above Cliff Cave Park in South St. Louis County. Like all of our cairns, this is identified both by its street address and by its GPS latitude and longitude. This is so people can return to the site, the exact site, over time and see the changes, even though the cairns have been removed. We also placed cairns in unexpected places, in a cave in Illinois, at water treatment plants, and here in the 30-foot stormwater tunnel that goes under Forest Park and empties into the River Des Peres. What you can't see underneath the cairn and the water is a grate that opens into an equally large sanitary sewer below. I wish we had smell-o-vision so you could get the full impact of this shot. I see water everywhere, even where it doesn't smell bad. We scouted this location in the Ferguson Sports Complex at the edge of a well-kept suburban neighborhood. This trash-filled ditch inspired me to go back to the studio and build the cracked cairn. When we returned a couple weeks later, heavy rains had washed most of that plastic trash into the adjacent creek. By the time we made this photograph in the rain, the plastic trash was probably already in the Mississippi River. I see water where it's not visible. This karst cairn is pictured in a sinkhole in Sioux Passage Park, North St. Louis County. Now, karst is the kind of limestone that dissolves quickly to make these sinkholes and underground tunnels that funnel rainwater and the pollutants it carries quickly to area rivers. This matters because we get our drinking water from these same rivers. I see water in ice and snow. This precipitation cairn is made up of 15 individual blue and clear glass cairns that we placed on the steps that once took people from the trolley on Riverview Boulevard up to the Chain of Rocks amusement park on the bluff above. We set these cairns up in the morning and didn't have long to wait for the snow that had been predicted for the afternoon. It really helps to have the GPS coordinates for this particular cairn because the steps are well hidden in the woods in North Riverfront Park in St. Louis City. It's right off the Great Rivers Greenway Trail. I see water also where it's really easy to see. This is the Green Goddess Cairn in a wetlands just right off Highway 55 in Illinois. This natural water storage and filtration plant is right across the street from homes on Collinsville Road in Fairmont City. By making art about water, I've come to see the region in blues and greens, land and water, not black and white or city versus county. Water in wetlands, streams, and in sewers connects us with each other and to the Mississippi River. This cairn, called Fairground, is depicted next to a maintenance building near the lake in Fairground Park, North St. Louis City. How do you experience water? Maybe you enjoy a beverage brewed from water that was in the Missouri River just weeks ago. Or watch bald eagles or trumpeter swans in the Mississippi River flyway overhead. Maybe you've floated on the Merrimack, the Hoosa, or the Cotaway River. This cairn balances on a raft of sticks in the Cotaway near Leesburg, Missouri. The name of this cairn is Tethys. Tethys was the Greek goddess of fresh water. She's been called the mother of all known rivers. We moms want the absolute best for our kids, so I implore you to see water, her children, in lakes, rivers, streams, and even sewers. When you see water with your own eyes, you too will feel empowered to nurture and protect her. Do you see water?